Hello, my name is Rifdanisi. I'm from K3 and my friend is.
Hello, my name is Wega Kami Putri and I'm from KG2.
So, I'm from Guatemala. This is a public service announcement. That is where Guatemala is. Also, that is not where they keep the prisoners. That is called Guantanamo. Not the same place. So, Guatemala is right below Mexico. And for the Americans in the audience, and let this sink in because it really applies in most ways. For the Americans in the audience, you can think of it as Mexico's Mexico. Just like the US doesn't want illegal immigration from Mexico, Mexico doesn't want illegal immigration from Guatemala. It's a smaller country, it's a poorer country, and, well, what can I tell you? It has much better Mexican food.
Hasankan video ini. Yang bisa saya transferkan adalah jadi saya berasal dari Guatemala. Disitulah Guatemala berada. Guatemala dan Guantanamo bukan tempat yang sama. Jadi Guatemala berada tepat di bawah Meksiko. Dan untuk orang Amerika yang hadir, ini berlaku untuk sebagian besar orang Amerika yang hadir. Anda bisa menganggapnya sebagai Meksikonya Meksiko. Sama seperti Amerika Serikat yang tidak menginginkan imigrasi ilegal dari Meksiko. Meksiko juga tidak menginginkan imigrasi ilegal dari Guatemala. Guatemala adalah negara yang kecil, negara yang miskin. Tapi Guatemala memiliki makanan Meksiko yang bagus. Sekian.
Guatemala is a very poor country. And a lot of people talk about education as something that brings equality to different social classes. But I always saw it as the opposite, as something that brings inequality. Because what happens in practice is that people who have a lot of money can buy themselves a really good education and therefore continue having a lot of money. Whereas people who don't have very much money barely learn how to read and write and therefore never make a lot of money. And this is especially true in poor countries. Now, I was fortunate that I received a rich person's education, even though I didn't grow up rich. And it's because I'm an only child. And my mother, who was a single mother, spent all of her resources on my education. And this allowed me to come to college to the US and eventually get a PhD in computer science. Now, because of all of this, about 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to do something that would give equal access to education to everyone. Oh, by the way, this is what I want to talk to you about today, giving equal access to education to everyone. At the
Guatemala adalah negara yang sangat miskin dan banyak orang membicarakan tentang pendidikan sebagai sesuatu kesetaraan kelas sosial. Namun, saya selalu melihat sebagai kebalikannya, sebagai sesuatu yang menimbulkan kesenjangan karena yang terjadi dalam prakteknya, yaitu orang yang memiliki banyak uang dapat pendidikan yang sangat bagus untuk dirinya sendiri, dan karena itu harus mempunyai uang yang banyak, sedangkan orang yang tidak memiliki banyak uang hampir tidak membaca dan menulis, sehingga tidak pernah menghasilkan banyak utama, terutama negara-negara miskin. Sekarang saya beruntung mendapatkan pendidikan meskipun saya tumbuh tidak kaya, dan itu karena saya anak tunggal dan ibu saya merupakan seorang tunggal yang menghabiskan seluruh sumber dayanya untuk pendidikan saya di Amerika dan dapat gelar di FI bidang komputer. Karena ini, sekitar 10 tahun lalu, saya memutuskan untuk melakukan sesuatu yang akan memberikan akses pendidikan kepada seluruh orang Oh ya, inilah yang saya inginkan, yang saya sampaikan, yaitu saya ingin memberikan akses pendidikan kepada seluruh orang.
At the time, I was a professor of computer science at Carnegie Mellon University, and I decided to work on this with my PhD student, Severin. The way my brain works, all of education is just too general of a problem. So I decided, let's start by teaching one thing. And then I started thinking, okay, well, what should we teach first? Should we teach math? I mean, we both loved math. Me and my co-founder, we both love math. And, we didn't decide to do math. Then we started thinking, well, maybe we should teach computer science. But eventually, and this is maybe surprising to people in North America, eventually we decided that the best subject to start with was teaching foreign languages. And let me tell you why. There's a number of reasons. One of
Jadi saat itu saya adalah seorang profesor ilmu komputer di Carnegie Mellon University. Saya memutuskan bekerja di sini dengan mahasiswa PhD saya, yaitu Severin. Menurut saya semua masalah pendidikan terlalu umum. Jadi saya memutuskan dengan mengajarkan satu hal. Kemudian saya mulai berpikir, baiklah, apa yang harus diajarkan pertama kali? Apakah harus mengajarkan matematika? Maksudnya saya dan co-founder saya menyukai matematika. Tapi kami memutuskan untuk tidak mengajar matematika. Lalu kami mulai berpikir, mungkin kami harus mengajar ilmu komputer. Mungkin ini akan mengejutkan untuk orang-orang di Amerika Utara. Akhirnya kami memutuskan untuk mengajar bahasa asing. Saya ada beberapa alasan. Sekian.
One of them is that there's a huge audience for it. There's about 2 billion people in the world learning a foreign language, both in school and outside of schools. Most of these people, by the way, are learning English. About 80% of them are learning English. In this weird map right here, all the countries in green are countries in which people are predominantly learning English. And the reason for that is because English can truly transform your life. In most countries in the world, knowledge of English can significantly increase your income potential. So this is another reason why we decided to start with foreign languages, and it's because you can directly make more money if you learn another language, in particular English. And see, this is pretty different than many other subjects. For example, take math. In the case of math, just knowledge of math does not increase your income potential, because usually you have to learn math to then learn physics, to then become a civil engineer, like that's how you make more money. Whereas with languages, if you were a waiter and you learn English, now you can be a waiter at a hotel and make more money. So we decided, well, let's get started by teaching languages.
Salah satunya adalah banyak penonton yang menontonnya, yaitu sekitar 2 miliar orang yang belajar bahasa asing, baik di sekolah maupun di luar sekolah. Ngomong-ngomong, sebagian besar dari orang-orang kini sedang belajar bahasa Inggris. Sekitar 80% dari orang Amerika belajar bahasa Inggris, dan dalam peta aneh, di sini semua negara berwarna hijau adalah negara yang sebagian besar penduduknya belajar bahasa Inggris. Alasannya, karena bahasa Inggris benar-benar dapat mengubah hidup Anda. Di sebagian besar negara di dunia, pengetahuan dapat jadi acuan penghasilan secara signifikan. Jadi inilah alasan lain mengapa kami memutuskan dengan bahasa asing, dan itu karena kalian bisa langsung menghasilkan banyak uang. Jika kalian belajar bahasa asing, khususnya bahasa Inggris, dan lihat, ini berbeda dari banyak mata pelajaran yang lainnya, seperti matematika, yaitu pengetahuan matematika saja tidak dapat mengubah potensi Anda karena harus belajar untuk fisika, kemudian jadi sipil. Nah, begitulah cara Anda untuk menghasilkan uang. Sedangkan dengan bahasa Inggris, dari awal mula pramusaji biasa, kita bisa menjadi pramusaji di sebuah hotel besar dan dapat menghasilkan banyak uang. Jadi, mari kita mulai untuk belajar bahasa Inggris.
Now, we also convinced ourselves that the only way to really reach a lot of people was by using a mobile phone, or a smartphone in particular. See, building schools all over the world is simply too expensive. On the other hand, most of the world's population already has access to a smartphone, and the trend is that that fraction is only going to increase. So, we decided at the time that we would make a way to learn foreign languages on a mobile phone that was accessible to everyone. And then we called it Duolingo. Thank you. Now, in order to truly be accessible to everyone, rich and poor, Duolingo uses a freemium model to support itself. What that means is that you can learn as much as you want without ever having to pay. But if you don't pay, you may have to see an ad at the end of a lesson. Now, if you don't like ads, you can also pay to subscribe to turn off the ads. And it turns out that the vast majority of the revenue for Duolingo comes from people who pay to subscribe to turn off the ads.
Jadi, kami meyakinkan diri bahwa satu-satunya cara untuk menjangkau banyak orang adalah dengan menggunakan ponsel. Karena membangun sekolah di seluruh dunia terlalu mahal. Di sisi lain, sebagian besar penduduk dunia telah memiliki akses ke smartphone dan akan terus meningkat. Jadi, kami memutuskan untuk membuat sebuah cara belajar bahasa asing dari ponsel yang dapat diakses semua orang. Lalu kami menamainya Duolingo. Sekarang, agar dapat diakses oleh semua orang, baik orang kaya maupun miskin, Duolingo menggunakan model premium. Artinya, Anda dapat belajar sebanyak yang Anda inginkan tanpa harus membayar. Tetapi jika Anda tidak membayar, Anda mungkin harus menonton iklan di akhir pembelajaran.
Now, who are these people who pay to subscribe to turn off the ads? Well, they're usually people, they're well-off people in rich countries like the US and Canada. Who are the people who don't pay to subscribe? They usually come from poorer countries like Brazil or Vietnam or Guatemala. So what I like about this model is that it is a small form of wealth redistribution, because we're basically getting the rich people to pay for the education of everyone. So I like that. Yes. So great. So with smartphones, we can reach a lot of people, and we can even get the rich people to pay for the whole thing. This is great. However, if you're trying to deliver education with a smartphone, you run into a humongous problem. And it is that smartphones come equipped with some of the most addictive drugs that humanity has ever engineered. TikTok, Instagram, mobile games. See, delivering education over a smartphone is like hoping that people will eat their broccoli, but right next to it, you put the most delicious dessert ever made.
Sekarang, siapa yang membayar untuk mematikan iklan? Biasanya orang kaya di negara kaya seperti Amerika Serikat dan Kanada. Siapa yang tidak membayar untuk berlangganan dari negara miskin seperti Brazil dan Guatemala? Jadi, yang saya sukai bentuk kecil dari redistribusi kekayaan, yaitu karena buat orang kaya biayai pendidikan semua orang. Dengan ponsel, kita bisa menjangkau banyak orang, bahkan bisa membuat orang kaya membayar semuanya, dan itu bagus. Itu bisa memberikan pendidikan. Dengan smartphone, Anda akan menghadapi masalah yang besar, yaitu dilengkapi dengan beberapa obat candu seperti TikTok, Instagram, dan game. Belajar dengan smartphone seperti orang yang memakan brokoli di sebelah Anda dengan menempatkan suatu hidangan makanan lezat.
If you really want to deliver education to everyone, not only do you have to make it accessible, but also you have to make it so that people want to actually learn. And with Duolingo, we've been able to do this. And at the highest level, the way we've done this is by making the broccoli tastes like dessert. I'll say it another way. What we've done is that we've used the same psychological techniques that apps like Instagram, TikTok, or mobile games used to keep people engaged, but in this case, we use them to keep people engaged, but with education. Let me give you some examples of these techniques. One of the most powerful ones is the notion of a streak. What a streak is it's just a counter that measures the number of days that you've used the product consecutively. You just take that number, you put it very prominently in your product, and then people come back every day. And the reason people come back every day is because, well, if they don't come back, that number resets to 0, and people don't want to lose their streak. It works. Now, on the one side, streaks have been criticized for example, getting teens addicted to Snapchat. But in the case of an educational app, streaks get people to come back to study every day. Now, to give you an idea of the power of streaks, in the case of Duolingo, we have over 3 million daily active users that have a streak longer than 365. Yes.
Jika Anda ingin memberikan edukasi kepada semua orang, Anda tidak hanya membuatnya mudah diakses, tetapi juga membuat orang untuk belajar. Dengan Duolingo, kami dapat melakukan hal ini. Apa yang telah kami lakukan adalah menggunakan teknik psikologis yang sama, dengan yang digunakan oleh aplikasi seperti Instagram, TikTok, atau game mobile. Untuk membuat orang tetap tertarik, namun di sini kami menggunakannya untuk membuat orang tetap berminat belajar. Izinkan saya memberi beberapa contoh dari teknik-teknik ini. Salah satu yang paling ampuh adalah konsep coretan. Coretan hanyalah sebuah penghitung yang mengukur jumlah hari di mana Anda telah menggunakan produk secara berurutan. Alasan orang kembali lagi setiap harinya adalah agar tidak kehilangan streaknya. Dalam kasus aplikasi pendidikan, streak membuat orang kembali untuk belajar setiap hari. Kami memiliki lebih dari 3 juta pengguna aktif.
That means they haven't missed a day in the last year or longer. Now, fun fact about streaks. What country do you think has the longest average streaks for an educational app? It's Japan. Of course. Shortest average streaks? Latin America, baby. But we're fun. Hey, we're fun. Another important mechanism to get people to come back to your product are notifications. On the one side, notifications can be really spammy and annoying. But in the case of an educational product, people actually want to be reminded to learn. In the case of Duolingo, we have a very sophisticated AI system that basically chooses when to send a notification and also what to say in each notification to maximize the probability that people come back. Now, interestingly, even after all this sophistication, it turns out that the algorithm for choosing what time to send you a notification is pretty simple. You know what is the best time to send people a notification? I'll tell you. It's 24 hours after they use the product last. Because, and there's an easy explanation. If you were free yesterday at 3 p.m., you're probably free today at 3 p.m. as well. So this is what a very sophisticated millions of dollars of AI found.
Berarti mereka tidak pernah melewatkan 1 hari pun dalam setahun. Sekarang, fakta menarik yaitu tentang Stripe. Menurut Anda, negara mana yang rata-rata Stripe terpanjang untuk aplikasi pendidikan? Jepang, yang terpendek Amerika Latin. Konisme lainnya untuk mempengaruhi orang kembali kepada aplikasi Anda, yaitu produk Anda, adalah pemberitahuan. Notifikasi bisa jadi sangat mengganggu, tapi dalam pendidikan, orang ingin diingat untuk belajar, dan Duolingo kami memiliki AI dapat memilih kapan harus memberi notifikasi dan apa yang harus disampaikan di setiap notifikasi untuk memaksimalkan orang kembali pada aplikasi kami, yaitu memilih waktu yang tepat untuk mengirim notifikasi sederhana. Tahukah Anda kapan untuk mengirimkan notifikasi sederhana. Tahukah Anda kapan waktu terbaik mengirim notifikasi ke orang lain? Itu setelah 2 jam menggunakan produk terbaik kami. Ada penjelasan mudah jika Anda bebas. Jika kemarin Anda bebas pukul 3, maka hari ini Anda juga bebas. Inilah ditemukan AI canggih dan bernilai jutaan rupiah.
It's funny. Now, with notifications, you shouldn't be spamming. And we're not spammy. With Duolingo, we actually stop sending you notifications after 7 days of inactivity. So if you don't use Duolingo for 7 days, we stop sending you notifications. Now, at some point, it occurred to us, if we're stopping to send people notifications, we should let them know. So we started sending this notification to people saying, hey, these reminders don't seem to be working. We'll stop sending them for now. You know what people do when they get this notification? They come back. Passive aggressive. Works for my mother, works for Duolingo.
Itu menyenangkan. Sekarang dengan notifikasi kamu tidak boleh melakukan spamming. Jika kamu tidak menggunakan Duolingo selama 7 hari, kami akan berhenti mengirimkan notifikasi. Kami akan mengirimkan notifikasi kembali ketika pelanggan memberikan pesan balik dan mereka kembali aktif, pasif ataupun agresif. Bekerja untuk ibu saya, bekerja untuk Duolingo.
These passive-aggressive notifications are really good at getting people to come back because they feel like our green owl mascot has given up on them. So they come back. And speaking of our green owl mascot, by the way, because all our notifications come from our green owl mascot, and well, he's passive-aggressive and also pretty pushy, this has given rise to a lot of memes on the internet that make fun of just the great lengths that he will go through to get you back to learn a language. Here's one of my favorite ones. It's a meme. It's one of my favorite ones. It's basically, looks like you forgot your Spanish lessons, and then there's an intruder alert. Presumably the owl broke into your house to get you to learn language. Now, Duolingo has entered the zeitgeist, and there's thousands of memes, there's SNL skits about it, and it's because we've managed to get people to want to learn a language by using the same techniques that mobile games and social media use to get people engaged.
Notifikasi agresif ini sangat bagus untuk membuat orang kembali karena mereka merasa burung hantu hijau ini sudah banyak menampilkan notifikasi yang mengoloknya. Upaya yang dilakukan sehingga Anda kembali mempelajari bahasa ini adalah yaitu salah satu menu favorit saya seperti bahasa Spanyol dan ada penyusup seperti burung hantu masuk ke rumah agar Anda belajar bahasa. Di sini Duolingo sudah memasuki era sejenis dan drama ESL tentang ini karena kami berhasil membuat orang belajar bahasa dengan teknik yang sama di game seluler media sosial.
And this is a really important point. Let me say this. I don't actually believe that there's a way to make an educational app be as engaging as something like TikTok or Instagram or mobile games. But the good news is that, and by the way, the reason I don't believe that is because ultimately you have to teach people something, and it's hard to compete with like cats and celebrities. But the good news is that I don't think you have to. See, here's the thing. When you're learning something, you get meaning out of it. Whereas when you're scrolling for 2 hours on Instagram, a lot of times afterwards, you feel like you just wasted your time. So I think it's actually okay if your educational product is only 80 or 90% as engaging as something like TikTok, because the other 10 or 20% will be provided by people's internal motivation, though of course, not much more than that. This is really a key point. If you want to get people to do something meaningful, you can use the same techniques that apps like social media use to get people to do it. And even if you're not as engaging as those apps are, you can still get hundreds of millions of people to use your product. In the case of
Dan ini adalah poin yang sangat penting. Saya tidak yakin bahwa ada cara untuk membuat aplikasi pendidikan semenarik TikTok atau Instagram atau game mobile. Sulit untuk bersaing. Ketika Anda mempelajari sesuatu, Anda akan mendapatkan makna dari hal tersebut. Sedangkan ketika Anda scrolling Instagram selama 2 jam, Anda seringkali merasa hanya membuang waktu saja. Jadi menurut saya tidak masalah jika produk edukasi Anda tidak semenarik TikTok. Tapi untuk sebagian orang juga bermanfaat. Jika kita ingin membuat orang melakukan sesuatu yang bermakna, maka dapat menggunakan teknik seperti yang digunakan oleh aplikasi media sosial untuk membuat orang tertarik. Dan meskipun Anda tidak semenarik media sosial tersebut, Anda masih bisa membuat ratusan juta orang lainnya menggunakan produk Anda.
in the case of Duolingo, for example, there are more people learning languages on Duolingo in the United States than there are people learning languages across all US high schools combined. And this is true in most countries in the world. My hope is that, well, I know we can do this, but my hope is that as humanity, we can do what Duolingo has done for learning languages, but for all other subjects, where we can get people to learn math with mobile phones, like millions of people to learn math with mobile phones, or physics, or whatever. I hope for a future in which screen time is not a bad thing, in which we can deliver high-quality education to everyone, rich or poor, using a mobile phone. But the single most important thing that I can end this talk with is a reminder to please, pretty please, I beg you, do your language lessons today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dalam kasus Duolingo, misalnya, jumlah orang Amerika belajar bahasa di Duolingo lebih banyak daripada orang belajar bahasa di seluruh sekolah menengah di Amerika. Hal ini berlaku di sebagian besar negara di dunia. Harapan saya sebagai manusia adalah yaitu kita bisa melakukan apa yang telah dilakukan di Duolingo untuk mempelajari bahasa dan juga untuk mata pelajaran lainnya, di mana orang bisa belajar matematika, fisika, ataupun apapun hanya dengan aplikasi saja. Saya berharap di masa depan menatap layar bukanlah hal yang buruk. Kita bisa memberikan pendidikan berkualitas tinggi kepada semua orang. Hal terpenting dari pembicaraan saya ini adalah pengingat untuk melakukan pelajaran bahasa Anda hari ini. Terima kasih.
Thank you. Thank you.